5 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no copays or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and more whole. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio.org. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
The coronavirus is real. Let's be diligent about washing our hands. Did you know that this virus can live on surfaces for up to 9 days? That's why it's also important to disinfect things that an infected person might touch, like your cell phone. Even if you wash your hands often, when you pull out your phone, those germs go right back on your hands. When's the last time that you cleaned your phone? When the virus is spread by sneezing or coughing, those tiny airborne droplets eventually land on surfaces that you touch with your hands. On average, we touch our face 16 times an hour, which is why it's important to wash your hands and wipe down commonly used surfaces, including your cell phone. This message is a public service of Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Yo, what's good? It's D-Money, and you should definitely check out Fresh Juice every Wednesday, 9 to 11 Pacific, right on Rainier Avenue Radio.
With pint-sized Patron, P-Treasy to Don. Y'all be sure to clean your mirrors as we play brand new hip-hop and R&B from locals and worldwide.
It's ID Yourself, a.k.a. Malcolm Flex. Make sure you check out Fresh Juice every Wednesday, Pacific Standard Time from 9 to 11 p.m.
And to get those exclusive interviews that we be doing.
Sipping a brand new fresh juice every single week.
Yeah. Every Wednesday, 9 to 11, Rainier Avenue Radio.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to reach out to the Vietnamese community in Seattle? Just advertise in Le Viet Tây Bắc, that is Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in our region. Go to nvnorthwest.com.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.world.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Clean Greens Living Live, broadcasted off of Rainier Avenue Radio. It's your host, Queen Bree and Robyn T. What's going on, Robyn? How are you?
Hi, Queen Bree. I am so good. It is wonderful to be with you all today. As always, I would love to mention we are broadcasting live from unceded Duwamish territory in Seattle, Washington. Please go to realrentduwamish.org to support that people of that nation. And the music you're hearing is original theme music produced by our friend Cuddy Fresh, aka Carrie Williams. We've had a lot of fun at the farm this week. We still have a few spots left for our weekly farm box. If you want to sign up for that, there's a few spots left. Please go to our website, cleangreensfarmmarket.com. We have so much prepared for you today. A really amazing guest. I will kick it back to Queen Bree for all the announcements and intros.
So Clean Greens announcement this weekend. Are you guys hearing me clear? Are you hearing me loud? We have started our kids program. It has started last Saturday. And the kids are so excited to be out there and learning about farming, food, and social justice. We still have a few slots left for that program. So if you are interested in your kids learning more about food and social justice, farming, and learning how to grow their own food and being an overall healthy human, please email us at blackdollarcleangreens@gmail.com or reach out to us on our social medias. We are also, exciting news, we're going to start having vendors at the market. So we're going to officially have a Clean Greens Plaza. I'm excited about that. But this week we will be kicking off the plaza with a rally for reparations. You hear that? We are kicking off the plaza with a rally for reparations. We are fighting back for land that was taken from New Hope Baptist Church. We are fighting for land that was taken for other families. And we are fighting to create more monies coming in to build low-income housing for families of color who are being pushed out of the Central District. So please join us July 24th, 12 p.m. to rally for reparations and just have an all around good time with our community. And then we have an extra day for CSAs and an extra day for market. So not only are we having markets on Saturday at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., now we are here on Mondays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Same place, same times, 116 21st Avenue, Seattle, Washington. Thank you. I like to give a shout out to our special guest, host Reverend Thorne and Reverend Annette Jeffrey. Thanks, guys. So this guest, I'm a little nervous to read this bio. I don't want to mess it up. I'm so excited to have her. Okay, here we go. Our special guest today is Estela Ortega. Estela Ortega is one of the founders of El Centro de la Raza, the Center for People of All Races. Estela has spent nearly 5 decades helping build El Centro de la Raza into a civil rights organization and has served as an executive director since 2009. Ortega began her career of service and community organizing as a young adult in the late 1960s, marching against the war in Vietnam, fighting for farm worker justice and registering Chicanos to vote. Ortega was responsible for the development of Plaza Roberto Maestas, affordable housing project in Beacon Hill. In 2019, Ortega led the effort to expand to Federal Way to fulfill the needs of the Latino community in South County, as they have been priced out of Seattle housing market. Again, please join us for that rally because this is happening, y'all. Estela's unwavering commitment to building community and advocating for those most marginalized has earned her many recognitions and awards. In 2018, she was named by Seattle Met magazine as one of the 50 most influential women in Seattle in 2020. She was named one of the Seattle Times 13 most influential people of the decade. As El Centro's history has recently published a textbook for college and universities. So please welcome everybody, Estela Ortega.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you all. And thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I'm so excited to hear about your plaza because at El Centro de la Raza, we also have a plaza. And you mentioned Reverend Jeffrey's name. And I just want to share that Reverend Jeffrey sits on our board of directors.
Oh, nice. Well, he's our executive director. And he was like, we have to have this woman on. She is brilliant. She is out here doing the work. And he wants to hear from you. And we want to hear from you. We're excited to have you. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I'm also happy to have you because in your bio, you mentioned that you're expanding out to Federal Way because a lot of people the Latino community is being pushed out. And we're having a rally for reparations to help combat that. So can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So, over the last probably, I would say 15 years, Latinos and also other people of color have been moving out of Seattle because there isn't affordable housing and, basically priced out of the city and having to move, further away so that they can find more affordable housing. And so we, had to look at that and determine when 56% of Latinos are living in South County more than living in the city, and we're based in the city, we had to make a very strategic decision around how are we going to service the population that lives in South County, and knowing that, people trying to come into the city, the freeways, are clogged up, we're creating more pollution and so forth. And so we decided to purchase a building in Federal Way, and we chose Federal Way because it was the most economical in terms of finding a building. And we're actually right now looking at leasing another building that is close by the existing Federal Way building, because again, the organization is growing. So the services that we provide in South County include, small business development, working with veterans, doing home visiting programs, and for young mothers who can't get out of their home, to provide them opportunities on learning how to have their children learn, and you play with them at the same time. So a very beautiful program, and there's just I can't think of all the names of the programs right now, but there's workforce programs, there's programs to recruit young people into pre-apprenticeship programs, and those pre-apprenticeship programs are usually, the road is usually to a good paying union job, and so that's why we see that that's extremely important. And El Centro is also looking in the future to develop housing also in Federal Way.
That's nice. And I'm happy that you guys were able to expand. I used to work for the YWCA, and I know that there was not a lot of services. The people of color are being pushed out of the city, but there's not a lot of services that way out.
Absolutely. I mean, that is a big issue. For the last probably 9 months, we have been surveying the 7 largest cities in South County, the Latino community. Basically about 1,000 people have been surveyed, and so that we can document what the need is. And it truly is a desert when it comes to services being provided in a culturally appropriate way, not just for the Latino community, but other communities, the African American community, the Asian, and I don't think there's a lot of Native Americans out in South County, but and I actually live in South County. I live in Auburn, and my grandchildren go to school in Federal Way, so they're involved, in the life of that community. And so what's going on in people's lives. And, we have little girls as young as 10 years old who are beginning to cut themselves, when how they cut themselves to, control the pain that they're already feeling. Little kids, 15-year-old. My granddaughter knew a little boy that she went to school with, and 15 years old, died of an overdose. We know how terrible fentanyl is out here in South County. Kids who are being shot down by gangs or whatever. And so there's lots and lots of issues. And, we're doing this community needs assessment to raise the issues of what's happening in the Latino community, because in some ways we've become invisible in terms of the issues that are out here, because no one is really speaking out about it. And so this community needs assessment is going to help us do that. And we hope to release that in September, because we've hired our writers to be able to pull all of the data together so that we can tell a story of what's really happening out here.
Nice.
That's amazing. I was going to ask that very question about your work and how many needs and how much work you've done over the years and El Centro has done to service all the solutions to all the community needs and problems people experience. And that was my question, is how do you identify issues? How do you prioritize? Because it also seems like you kind of take care of all the needs, but when you find the most pressing issues, like I hadn't even thought of children and self-harm. We both have 10-year-old daughters. That hit us hard. I know when I heard that.
Yes.
And the issues with drugs and teens and overdoses is heartbreaking. I grew up in Federal Way. I saw a family in Federal Way too. So
Wow.
It hits us right here. So you're speaking of a community needs assessment, but also then you you have, family members in the community as well. So that was my question, is how do you prioritize when there's so many needs?
It is. I mean, you think about El Centro has over 43 different programs in the areas of, children and youth, human and emergency services, education and skill building programs. Obviously we're developing housing and, we do advocacy. And, when you think about the need and the amount of people that we serve, we service about 17,000 people or so annually. That's just still like a drop in the bucket in comparison to the needs that there is. And that's why, there are lots of discussions, going on in the community around, racial equity. We saw that, after when COVID hit and everything had to shut down, the system did respond, county government, city government, philanthropy, individuals did respond. And, El Centro probably a 6 month or so period, we raised over $2 million to help people. And that was phenomenal, but it wasn't enough, And so we know that COVID has, as they say, has layered, that you can see clearly what the disparities are, in communities of color, and that there was a response. And so we need to ensure that that response continues. And so there's discussions about, again, racial equity, culturally appropriate services, that those who are, that are in communities should be leading those kind of efforts so that we make sure that our communities are getting the services that they deserve. And, one of the points that I'm beginning to make is that our people are surviving. They're not thriving. They're only surviving. And we need our people to live their lives so that they can thrive as others do.
Nice. For people, I want to touch on that really quick, but I kind of jumped ahead because I got excited knowing that you were out in Federal Way.
Okay.
It's a real need out there for people, low income families and people of color. For those who don't know exactly who El Centro de la Raza is, can you tell them about your services and who it is?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, El Centro next year, I'm happy to say, I would have never imagined, when in 1972, when I helped found El Centro de la Raza, that we would be approaching 50 years. We're going to be 50 years old next year. And the organization started with the peaceful occupation of the old Beacon Hill School. It was, the school had been abandoned, and when you think back to that time, and you're probably all too young, to be knowing what was happening in 1972. But 1968, Dr. King had been assassinated. Kids were getting killed on school campuses because they were, protesting the war in Vietnam. That was Kent State. Farm workers, the civil rights movement, and so the country was on the move. But at the same time, farm workers from the Yakima Valley were being displaced and coming into the cities looking for services. And Roberto Maestas, who we refer to as our lead organizer at the time, and also was the executive director of El Centro for 37 years, he was leading an English as a second language program, and that got defunded. The funds were frozen by the Nixon administration because there was no longer a commitment to the war on poverty. And we face the same things again, today. Now, under the Biden administration, I'm hoping that it's going to be different and that we can see money trickling down to the communities to revitalize and grow our communities, and so that people, have jobs and they can be educated, and so forth. So that occupation lasted 3 months, and the building was finally turned over to us for $1 a year. And that was fantastic. It was a white elephant because it needed all sorts of work. And so for the last 50 years, it's like when a young couple buys a house and it needs to be, remodeled. Well, we've been sort of remodeling for the last 50 years. And throughout those, the most important thing about the occupation was the support that we received from communities of color, that we received from the anti-war movement and the faith community. Because if we would not have had that support back then, we would not be here today, because the Latinos in King County, the entire King County, were only about 25,000 people at the time, clearly with no political clout. And our clout came from our supporters. And that's why that building was turned over to us. And that's why to this day, El Centro de la Raza has a undying commitment to communities of color and progressive forces, if you will, because we will never, ever be able to pay that debt back, because we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here today at all. And the organization obviously has evolved into an important entity, an important institution, if you will, in terms of providing services and being involved in social justice issues. And as I said earlier, there's all kind of programs for seniors and food banks and, workforce programs and childcare and, trying to get kids back into school, working with them on getting into college, rental assistance, eviction assistance, the list goes on. And, we're happy to do the work that we're doing. And as an organization, El Centro is growing and is a stable organization. But we can never lose sight that even though we are thriving as an organization, our communities are not thriving, and we need more for our communities. And so when we, are out there, marching and protesting, we're protesting so that our people can have food, that they can have an education, that they can have housing, that they can have the reparations, that you can lead a dignified life. And I guess, I say over and over that it's not just about surviving. It is about thriving and living a good life. I wanted to go back to Federal Way just to tell you about a program that we're so excited about, is that we received from United Way some planning dollars over a 3-year period to establish a re-engagement center. And a re-engagement center is to bring young people who have dropped out of school, who need a few credits to graduate. That work is starting in September. And so we will be creating that kind of a program for, communities, and it'll be multiracial. It will not just be Latino based, because we believe, again, there's that debt, that we feel like we have to continue to pay. So I just wanted y'all to know about that, because that's going to be a fantastic program for the community.
That is so nice. If you're just tuning in, you're tuning in to Clean Greens Living Live, broadcasted on Rainier Avenue Radio. We have with us today Estela Ortega from El Centro de la Raza, talking about community work and housing. I love that you mentioned about surviving. Like, I just realized, for myself, I'm part of that family. Like, I'm hanging on to Seattle by a thread, and my main focus is to teach my kids to be able to step up, do a little bit better than what I did, that survival mode. And that's another reason why I try to get out here and do that community work, because the community is most of us are just surviving, and we want to thrive. We want to live. We want to enjoy life as well. And lost my train of thought. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. Come back to me. Sorry.
Maybe it'll come back to you and you'll think about it. I love that you mentioned, I have 2 things I wanted to talk to you about. I love that you mentioned the Re-Engagement Center that's coming up, because we have a listener guest / side co-host, Reverend Thorne, was asking about teen suicide. And I think this would really help if they are feeling hopeless.
Absolutely.
So there may be, I would love to, if we could see, or if you could speak on some of that. And I did have a question too about you said the organization is thriving. And one of my questions was, personally, because you are so vibrant and you've done this work for so long, and one of our great mentors, Dr. Jeffrey, has also been doing this work for quite a long time. And I am curious, to those of us doing community work, from those who have been doing it, what is your best advice for personal longevity and sustainability in continuing to do work like this, and for an organization's longevity? And I feel like you touched on some of it, like a commitment to the other communities of color and people who also, so maybe that's part of the answer, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, I mean, I do think it is a commitment. It's not about a career. It's about a commitment to community. And some of us make those choices, you know, and so I was one of those people that made those choices to say, I'm going to devote my life to this organization, and I'm going to do everything. If it means working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, for months, years on end, that's just what it is, because it's, you know, it's helping build community. And there is a personal basis for me, because I grew up extremely poor. And, you know, I worked in the cotton fields of, you know, Texas at a really early age. I was a kid, you know, 9 years old, you know, picking cotton. In fact, I picked cotton right beside Black people, you know, and that was my relationship with Black people, and that we were working side by side, you know. And my mother sent us out into the fields. She had a small child, and I was actually talking to my daughter, and I said, you know, we were up sometimes, we were in the fields when it wasn't even light yet, and we were picking cotton, or we were picking, you know, okra. You know, okra is very, you know, famous in Texas and Louisiana. And, you know, I can't even believe that we did that kind of work. So it comes from that very personal, that we were so poor. And I know what that means, you know, in terms of eating the same food, all you have is potatoes to eat, and you eat potatoes 3 meals a day, you know, day after day, and, you know, living, and, you know, this is very stark, you know, living in a rat infested, roach infested house, and all that means. And so it caused me to, you know, to know that poverty later in life, you know, I realized that poverty doesn't, you know, that as a society, we have the means to eradicate poverty, but there's not the will, because people don't want to see us thrive, you know. And so when I became involved in social justice work right out of high school, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I had the blessing of my grandmother. I mean, I tell her what I was doing, and I was involved in farm worker issues and so forth. And all I needed was my grandmother's blessing, and to know that this was the right thing to do. So that's on a very personal note, and that I'm lucky actually to have become involved with El Centro de la Raza, because I was living in Houston. And I was on my way to be, I was your pre-yuppie at the time, you know, in terms of where my career was going. But at the same time, I was involved in community, you know, as you talked about in my bio, Queen Bree. So that has saved me. For me, it's been a salvation, because I think as women and people of color, you know, we experience racism every day, we experience sexism. So can you imagine that 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago?
Absolutely not.
And, you know, and you have to put on a certain facade when you're in that world. And I think that still happens today for many people of color who work in corporate America. So when I found out about the occupation of El Centro, because I had met some people from Seattle earlier, and they asked me to come and visit, and I did. And I saw, when I walked into the El Centro building, There was people of all color. There was people of all ages. And I had been learning about, poverty and racism and capitalism and this and that. And I thought, oh my God, these people here in Seattle are putting something in place. And so that made me want to be a part of it. And so in terms of an organization existing, because the fact that we're even 50 years old and we came out of the civil rights movement.
I'm sorry, we're running into 30 seconds. And I know that was one of my questions too, and you answered like, how do we continue the fight? And I also wanted to, hopefully in 30 seconds, $2 million, people always think $2 million is a lot, but for an organization doing as much work as you, it is not a lot. It is like pennies. How can people get involved and donate and support you in your mission to continue to fight?
They can go to our website, which is all you have to go in, is just Google elcentrodelaraza.org. There's many opportunities to volunteer, to contribute. And when we reopen again, come and visit us because we want to make El Centro your home also.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this talk. I wish we had more time because I have 1,000 more questions.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. And my love to Reverend Jeffrey. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Robyn,
you too.
You want to kick them out because I'm getting ready to start choking.
Oh yeah. Traffic Jam is next. Thank you so much, Estela Ortega.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.